Starting off with West Asia, the United States is not entirely isolated, but it faces diplomatic distance from its key allies, with several NATO nations reportedly assuring Iran they will not join the military conflict.
While Israel remains its primary active partner in the joint operations, Persian Gulf states face security pressures and regional fallout from the ongoing conflicts, prompting some local mediation efforts through countries like Oman, Qatar and Pakistan, rather than direct military alignment.
Well, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai says that with regards to talks with the US, there are no plans to receive a delegation or send an Iranian one. Listen to this.
We are not currently negotiating with the United States. Our negotiations are with Oman to secure passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
Earlier, Trump had said an agreement with Iran was imminent, with negotiations set to begin on Monday, the 3rd of August.
It was going to be a massive attack. It was going to be attacked, but would have been by far the biggest attack since World War II. But they've asked us not to do it. They said, please don't do it. And their neighbors said that too. And so we're just going to see whether or not we can make a deal for the denuclearization.
Now, this is where it gets interesting, Eric. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince spoke to Donald Trump about the deepening crisis between Washington and Tehran, urging a renewed push for dialogue over further military escalation. This was hours before the United States president halted his latest attacks on Iran.
MBS also highlighted the need to preserve the Gulf security and stability and prevent a wider conflict whose repercussions would affect regional and international security and stability.
Now, reports also indicate growing friction and low morale among US troops and administration officials. Active duty soldiers and reservists deployed in the Middle East, the West Asian region, have reported severe stress and vulnerability due to the ongoing missile and drone exchanges. Many service members have openly questioned the goals and the longevity of the extended campaign.
While the America First approach is also facing a severe political and strategic collision. The Trump administration's campaign against Iran contradicts core non-interventionist America First promises, drawing the U.S. back into active foreign military adventurism. High-cost U.S. defense munitions are being depleted faster than they can be resupplied to counter low-cost Iranian drones and missiles, straining national resources.
Overall, polling indicates that roughly 58% of Americans disapprove of the military strikes against Iran, reflecting deep domestic skepticism.
And still at home, domestic political opponents are leveraging the war's growing unpopularity and economic ripple effects ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Well, Sivan, let's broaden this discussion further. And Colonel retired David B. Desroches is a professor at Thayer Marshall Institute and former Deputy Director for Peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He's now joining us live from Maryland, the United States. Very much for making time for us, Desroches. Let me just begin by asking you, what do you feel will happen in the next 1 week or so, given that President Trump has halted the strikes on Iran, and he says that he spoke to Iranians, but Iranians are saying they never spoke to the president.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I thought we would have seen this massive attack last Friday. The ambiguity from the Iranians and the difference between Trump, I think, reflects an internal fight going on within the Iranian leadership. You have the Iranian government, but which says it's doing something, and then you have hardliners within the Revolutionary Guard who overrule it. And in some instances, as we saw with the MOU in the early days, launched attacks against ships without neutral civilian shipping, without informing the government. Mm-hmm. So I think given that dynamic, it would be political and maybe even personal suicide for an Iranian government official to say, yeah, we're engaged in negotiations with the United States. But there's clearly messages being passed. I'm not sure whether it's in person or whether it's through intermediaries. Oman is a very close partner, security partner of the United States. And I think that their discussions with Iran are probably relayed to the United States very quickly. I think that President Trump is wrestling with a couple of issues. The first is he has a natural preference for not using military force. I think he is frustrated that it is taking him so long to achieve his strategic goals. Secondly, are the Arab partners who are ostensibly one of the reasons why this campaign is being fought. They're afraid of two really bad outcomes. One is that the United States just irritates Iran and then leaves, leaving them with a danger, basically poke the bear, and then they have to deal with the angry bear. The second is that we destroy Iran and leave a failed state, basically Libya, with refugee crises, with separatism, with terrorism, and all that. So I think a time for reassessment is not necessarily a bad thing, but clearly he has outrun his initial courses of action and probably wants additional courses of action. Diplomacy and economic sanctions is probably the one he'll lean towards most heavily.
Colonel David, you mentioned something. Let me just quickly get a little more understanding from you on that. Do you feel this war is being fought for the Arab partners? Because they had clearly warned US before it even started, do not engage with Iran because their missiles are aimed directly at us, and that included Saudi Arabia. And we've seen how all the Gulf states have taken immense amount of damage through the course of these last 5+ months so far.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's actually factual. I mean, the Gulf Arab states, the GCC states, denied the U.S. access, basing, and overflight for these operations. They thought that if they didn't allow the United States and Israel to conduct operations in the airspace, they would essentially be neutral and they wouldn't be attacked. And what they saw was that not just U.S. Bilateral facilities, which were not involved in the initial strikes, but also their civilian infrastructure was in fact attacked by Iran. So that their position now may be, as I said, the two fears, which is if you're going to do something, you have to do it right. And it looks as though, with this on-again, off-again war, I think there is concerns among the GCC states that the United States is not really serious about pursuing it to a conclusion that would actually enhance Gulf security. That's a secondary consideration. I mean, obviously, President Trump will throw it in there, but his main concern is just the nuclear program, as he said, and then Iran's willingness to conduct attack on neutral civilian shipping in international waters, which for a trading nation like the United States, that cannot be allowed to become a precedent. That would destroy global prosperity on which the United States and India are dependent.
Well, the Strait of Hormuz, it still remains where it was, regardless of whatever comes out from the American president's posts on Truth Social.
Yeah.
That's far from reality as far as Iran is concerned. They're maintaining it will never go back to pre-war levels. We'll need to wait and watch because now we have a bigger sticking point than the earlier one that was the nuclear program, which still exists. Colonel, always a pleasure speaking with you. There will be more to discuss, I'm sure, because at this point we don't really find an ending to this. Look forward to speaking with you again.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be your first guest.